Hi everyone, welcome back to Relational Empowerment. I just needed to come on here. I've had something on my heart since early this morning. Well, midday. It's New Year's Day 2021. And I went to a little bagel shop this morning to get something to eat. And while I was sitting there, I had just all of this that I started typing notes into my phone, and I really felt like I needed to share it. It's 11 o'clock at night, so I'm a little sleepy, but I think I knew it was something I needed to share before the end of the day, and I think it's good that I'm a little sleepy and I've been kind of just moving around all day, and I'm in natural mode as much as possible, which I'm almost always all natural, like no makeup or anything like that. You're just gonna see as we go through these videos the raw Leah, just me. This is how I function. This is how I am. This is, just me being me. So while I want to give you a sense of structure and articulation and things like that, I think it's really important to just be myself and share things from my heart. And so sometimes I can get a little messy, and it's okay, because if no one shows you what it's like to get a little bit messy and be okay with themselves, then how are you going to know that you're safe to do that? So anyways, while I was sitting there waiting for my meal, I thought about how we take, photos, might tilt we have a good side, and that's the photo we would want to post. We filter through and look and make sure that what we post is something that we want people to see, but we're not going to post photos like with all of our flaws showing, oh no, broke out or whatever, I got something on my teeth, and that's kind of why I felt like it was good that my hair's a little messy, and I still need to get ready for bed and everything. So it's really fitting. Um, so I wrote down these notes, and I'm kind of tossing back and forth between reading the notes outright or just using them as a reference point, because there was so much and I felt like it was so good. I don't want to miss anything. But the context for how we look in our photos and what we're willing to share with the world around us is so much like how we interact in relationships. So, and again, I reiterate, when I say the word relationships, I'm talking about any interpersonal relation to another human. So it can be from interacting with someone in passing that you may never expect to see again. It could be a work co-worker relationship or employer-employee relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, female, male, friends, same sex or opposite sex, friendships, parent and children, husband, wife. This can apply to every one of those relationships in some way, shape, or form. And you will hear me use certain specificities because I come from the lens of, I can only give you the perspective of a single 42-year-old mom who is of the Christian faith, right? I can't tell you what it looks like to be a 25-year-old male. I have no lens for that. I can perceive what might be possible, but I can't give you a lens for that. So you're going to hear it come from the perspective that I have experience in, but in a way that I hope would be applicable for you. And so we interact in these relationships. And so, and a very similar way that we interact with our photos and what we are and are not willing to let people see about us. And so that can look like, you know, we meet someone, and we'll do a hi, how are you? Oh, you know, that's a really great shirt, or I like this, or find something to compliment, find something very general to keep the topic very general, and typically won't go farther than the surface for a period of time if we ever let someone get past that point. Now, there's healthy levels of we don't share everything about ourselves with every person that we meet. So I want to clarify that to make sure that's not something that I'm conveying, is that that's a good idea for us to do. It's not typically a wise move. But if it's someone that we're going to be interacting with, on a continual basis over a period of time, or that we hope to interact with, maybe in the dating world where, one hopes to get to know a person better to see whether or not there might be more than a friendship or an acquaintance. There's a point where there needs to be a moving past the hi, how are you? And something that tends to happen a lot once you get past the cordial pieces is certain walls of self-protection come up. And in those walls, we're letting this person get here, like proximity here, but they're not going to get here, and they're certainly not going to get close to my heart, because I need to protect myself from getting hurt, because that's happened to me before. So we'll keep things on the surface, and sometimes that can go on for so long that we create defense mechanisms, our internal systems. We don't necessarily realize we're doing it on a logical level. Like, our brain isn't thinking about that necessarily, so we don't notice that's what's happening. But our internal processors are creating mechanisms, defense mechanisms, just like your immune system rises up and defends against something foreign. It's similar with our emotions and how we interact with people. So these defense mechanisms get created, and a lot of times those defense mechanisms will bring us to a place of self-sabotage. And I honestly feel like there was a lot more in depth than what I wrote this morning. And so every time I'm getting to a different point, I feel like there's things that are getting missed. And so I'm going to read to you what I wrote and then kind of fill in the blanks as we go, because I just don't want you to miss anything. And yes, this video is going to be a little longer than the rest, but I think it's really important for us to get a hold of. So here's what I wrote. It's easy to hide your flaws when you take photos at a distance, wearing certain clothing and standing in a certain way, or posing. But how often do we take a close-up of ourselves when we first wake up, when our hair is a mess and we haven't washed our face? How about after we're done eating? Would we post a photo smiling big with food in our teeth? Not hardly. I know I wouldn't. The truth is, that's what we do in relationships every day. We'll let people near enough to say, hi, how are you, but never really let them get close enough to see our character flaws or the angles we don't like about ourselves. If we pay close attention, we will catch ourselves deflecting any conversations that involve depth, so people can't see what we want to hide. This can be referred to as self-protection. We keep our walls up and people at a distance so they can't get close enough to see, because in our minds, they will reject or abandon us if they find out about fill in the blank. Most of us carry something we really don't want most people to know about us. And a lot of times that thing is associated with, if that person finds out that about me, they're not going to accept me anymore. And so we keep a wall around that area to prevent ourselves or protect ourselves from being rejected or abandoned. And so it can be easy to function this way for so long that we begin to do things that shut down the relationship before we have the chance to see its full benefit. This is called self-sabotage. Self-sabotage can appear in the form of perceiving things that are not necessarily true, such as, for example, I'm in several groups for single women, and so I hear a lot of different scenarios, and so this is just kind of a general example. They perceive things that are not necessarily true, such as an unanswered phone call can be perceived as rejection, and the self-sabotage response would be to reject that person without any conversation before they have the chance to hurt you. Now, how often does it happen? We don't tell someone, hey, when this happened, I felt this way. Instead, we go, oh, block, delete, and we just pretend that person never existed. But deep down inside, our internal structures know that there was a lack of closure, and that creates wounds in our emotions, and those get carried into new relationships. They have to be confronted and dealt with from a healthy place, so that you can have closure and you can truly move on in a way that is effective and beneficial for both. That's where growth comes in, and gives you the opportunity to develop as an individual more. There are so many other ways this can appear, but the point is that these walls and defense mechanisms have the ability to create realities that are not true, making up stories in the mind that fit the narrative of past experiences, thereby destroying otherwise excellent friendships or relationships before they have been given a chance. Ultimately, this can lead to a very lonely life where one feels that no one understands or accepts them, feeling outcast and rejected. These thought processes and behaviors most often stem from prior experiences and affect the lens through which we view our current experience. This is not the way we were meant to live. We are made for relationship. People thrive best and flourish most within a community of people who will accept us the way we are, support and celebrate us through victories and losses in life, encourage us when we are down, and be trusted with our hearts. This is obviously with wisdom and balance, and it's just not just, oh, let me just attach to this group of people and just spill everything, and not have discernment as to what we should and shouldn't share with whom. We develop friendships that go to deeper layers over time. This doesn't mean people in a strong community will never get their feelings hurt, disagree, have miscommunications, or make mistakes. Frankly, this is because we're all growing. The key to this kind of community is that the people within it, whether 2 people or 200, have committed to working through their differences and refuse to abandon each other. So the point is, first, to recognize that we have these internal structures that we've created based on our past hurts. When we recognize those internal structures, we begin to see the behaviors that have come out of them. And then once we notice the behaviors, we can begin to do something about it and say, well, wait, that's not true about this person. They just, literally, someone can open a soda can the same way someone from your past that hurt you did, and it can trigger a familiarity that causes you to assign the injury of the past person to the present person when they're nothing like that person. So that it can be that simple. It can just be like the way someone parts their hair, or they might wear the same cologne or perfume, or just any little personality things that might be similar that have nothing to do with the reason the person in your past hurt you. And so it's really important to notice that and identify those things and recognize that this self-sabotage device can go into a place where we allow our structures within to determine the way that we respond to situations in a way that will best defend themselves, and instead destroy relationships on purpose to protect itself. And if we're not aware of it, it can just escalate over time and make it very, very difficult to have good relationships. And let's face it, we just aren't made to do this life alone. We're not. We even when we like to be alone, I like to be alone. I'm very much a internal processor. I'm very much an introvert, but I can tell when I need to be around people. It's very healthy to have a level of balance in spending time with people and then learning how to process by yourself. So I just want to say whatever's been attached to you for community and things like that, it doesn't have to have power over your life anymore. It doesn't have to stop you from having good friendships, good relationships in your life. You can trust that people aren't intentionally seeking to harm you. And that's the main thing, is sometimes people hurt us and we automatically do a friend or foe thing. It's a, I think, a psychological trigger, where we assign them to be either a friend or a foe, and as we do that, we put them in one camp or the other. So we separate them from us or keep them close. So once we do that, we destroy a relationship. Just because someone hurt you doesn't mean that they have to be labeled a foe, is my point. That would carry on more conversation. You can begin to assess through the person's character. Wait a minute, did this person mean to hurt my feelings? Did this person intend to do something that I would end up feeling this way for? Well, if they didn't intend that, then I know this person would never harm me. This never intentionally do this. If they wouldn't intentionally do it, then it's worth figuring out how to walk through that and find closure to the injury without destroying the relationship. And so that has to do with healthy conflict resolution and so many other layers. And I've clearly talked plenty on this subject tonight, and I feel like it's been really messy and all over the place. But I think that it's something that's going to continue to be built upon and discussed further, maybe in smaller chunks. It's just, it came out on me so strongly this morning. I felt like it was something that needed to get posted and watched tonight, as much as I don't want to post this video, and I'm pretty tired, so I'm thinking it's probably not well articulated, but I'm going to dare to do it and be vulnerable and be okay with who I am. And I just thank you again for joining me, and thank you for staying to watch the whole video. Feel free to ask any questions if there's some things that seemed a little cloudy because I'm a little tired. Bless you. Happy New Year 2021. Thank you again for joining me. Have a good night.